Have you read on a bunch of different blogs or listened on a ton of different podcasts about how you need to be using video to grow your business, but just have not been able to implement it? Well, in this video, I'm going to be talking about what videos you actually need to be shooting and how to actually distribute it to grow your business. What's going on, everyone? My name's Lior, and I'm a team leader with a group at Compass in Boston. And in this video, like I said, I'm going to be talking about an actionable plan that you guys can use to actually take video and implement that to grow your business, right? Everyone's been talking about this for the last couple of years, but it's still challenging to actually implement, to grow and create more clients out of it and actually generate more revenue. Now, before we get into it, two quick things. Number one, if you guys haven't already subscribed to my channel, smash that subscribe button for me. I'm going to be putting tons of videos every single week talking all different aspects of how you can continue to grow your business as well as ultimately your wealth in the real estate space. And number two, I get so many calls from different agents around the Boston area asking about how they can take their business to the next level. So if you guys have been thinking about making a move to a new brokerage, to a new team, hit me up and we can talk about how we can continue to grow your business and ultimately your wealth. So let's get right into today's content. And the way I'm going to break this down is I'm going to first talk about the types of videos you definitely should not be doing, because that's really important. Number two, then I'm going to actually talk about the videos you should be doing. And then number three, I'm going to give you my thoughts on how to actually distribute these videos in a way that can generate meaningful business for you, right? Because video is great, but what's the point if you're not getting clients out of it? So let's get into number one, which is the videos you should not be doing. And there's two examples of videos that I see tons of realtors, tons of brokers doing, but that don't actually generate business. And those two types of videos are listing videos and videos about market updates. And to be honest, the reason why they don't work is, let's be real, would you care about that if you weren't in real estate? Right? Think about this from like a consumer's perspective. If you weren't necessarily in the market for a house today, would you really care about a video talking about a market update and how much inventory has moved or what interest rates are or how many pending home sales there are? Not really, right? I mean, to be honest, like if we're really honest between ourselves right now, even as a realtor, yeah, those statistics matter, but they're kind of boring statistics. Like, no one actually wants to hear those statistics, right? Look, obviously those statistics have their place and they tell meaningful stories, but for your average consumer, and even probably for your average realtor, right, no one really wants to talk about hard data, especially when it comes to homes. It just does not generate a lot of excitement. And then that first video, the listing videos, you might think, well, why wouldn't that work, right? I mean, they can see that I'm being active in the market and that I have listings and I'm doing all this fun stuff. And the truth is, think about what you're actually selling in the listing video. You're selling a specific house, right? And what happens when you sell that house, right? Like, what happens when a consumer stumbles upon your Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever? We'll talk more about that. But they see a listing video from like 2 years ago, right? Is that really content that's going to make the consumer think, wow, you know what, John really knows his stuff? Not really, right? I mean, yeah, you got all these sexy pictures and sexy aerial views, and it's great, but it's not actually something that's going to generate meaningful clients for you because it's a one-time thing, right? It's a one-time flashy, like, ooh, look at this, look at that. And then it's kind of over with. So what kind of videos should you actually focus your efforts on producing? Well, I think there's three types of videos that you need to focus on as a realtor that can actually generate you meaningful clients. And I know this because that's what worked for me, right? So number one type of video is basically your city/neighborhood overview. And all you have to do is essentially shoot a video talking about, like I said, a specific city or a specific neighborhood, right? So if you're in New York, you could choose a specific neighborhood. I'm in Boston, so I do tons of different neighborhoods. And again, you basically just film them, right? You go around and talking about what makes that neighborhood unique, right? What are the different restaurants there, different bars, what fun things are there to do, Is it convenient for people to work or commute? Whatever, right? You get the gist. And why does that work? Well, think about it from a consumer perspective, right? If I'm going to be on the market soon and I'm thinking about buying a house, what is probably the number one or maybe number two thing I'm going to think about, right? You're probably going to think about, well, how do I get a loan? And then you're also going to be thinking about, well, where do I actually buy? Right? So, and that's something that every buyer's going to go through, right? Every buyer's going to go through this process of trying to find out where's the best place for me to buy. So by creating content around neighborhoods, around different cities, and showcasing what makes each one unique, what it's actually like to live in them, you're actually providing tremendous value to the consumer, because that way the consumer can quickly learn and understand, hey, you know what, I think I'm going to vibe here, or hey, you know what, I'm going to love here. And again, like I said, guys, that's the most common type of video that I do on my channel that's focused on client acquisition, and it is the best and most top producing video, types of producing videos that actually generate inbound leads for me. Number two type of video that I think works the best is basically your investor, buyer, seller guide or tips. And basically, as just like it sounds, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to create a bunch of videos giving tips on the buying process, on the selling process. And you can kind of go deep, right? You can create one long one that's like an ultimate guide. I've done those. You can make a video about a specific part of the transaction. Now, I wouldn't go too into detail, right? Like I wouldn't necessarily go into, well, what happens if your home underappraises? How can you rebuttal that, right? Put yourself in the mind of the consumer. If you're going to be thinking about buying a house, right, you probably want to get a pretty decent idea of what the process is like. What are the major challenges or barriers that are going to be like? So again, frame everything from the mind of the consumer. What am I actually going to be researching? What's important for me to know as I start my journey in buying, right? Because once they're actually in that journey of buying and they're in that transaction and then they have that appraisal issue, yeah, they're probably going to do that research. By that point, they already have a realtor. And if it's not you, that realtor is going to help them figure out that issue. So the point is, stay a little general, but create these guides or tips videos that also are evergreen, right? Because those are always going to be relevant. Those are always going to be important for buyers. And again, it's not like a one-time thing. And finally, video number three, type of video number three that I think you should focus on is more of your lifestyle videos. And on lifestyle videos, basically what I mean is you can do specific videos on specific restaurants, cafes, festivals, new business openings in neighborhoods, right? It's similar to number one where we kind of talked about neighborhood and cities, but this is actually focused on specific restaurants, events, whatever going on in the community. And again, this is number three on the list because I think the first two are more powerful. But if you incorporate this kind of video as well into your video strategy, I have seen value out of it because, again, you're providing good value to consumers, right? If they're researching neighborhoods that they want to potentially move to within the next year, they're going to be looking at that kind of stuff. It's also a great way to connect with sellers in the neighborhood, right? A lot of sellers will search, I heard about this new restaurant that came up. What's going on with that? And then boom, they see your video and now they remember your face, right? So I think it's not as good as the first two types of videos that I talked about. But like I said, I've done videos on grand openings in local restaurants. I've done videos on specific types of festivals that happen around my area. And those have generated some good buzz for me as well. So number three, now that we talked about the types of videos you should actually be shooting, let's talk about how to actually distribute these videos, right? Because again, we can have the coolest, the best videos that you've ever made. The right people don't see it, who cares, right? I mean, it's not going to get you business. And at the end of the day, if you're not getting business from them, then this isn't working. And before I actually jump into the different distribution channels, you probably noticed the theme I've been talking about, which has been evergreen, right? You want these videos to last as long as possible and go through as many potential leads, right? Because just like I talked about when we were talking about the listing video, where it's only relevant for say a month or two, and then it really doesn't help you out. In the same concept is going to apply in your distribution strategy, right? You don't necessarily want to put out a video once. Yeah, maybe some people see it that day or that week, but then 2 months later, 3 months later, it's irrelevant, right? So think about that. as we go through these distribution channels. So let's start with what a lot of realtors do, which I don't necessarily agree with, is they like to distribute their content on Facebook and LinkedIn. And there's not really a problem with it per se, but think about how the engagement with the consumer works on Facebook and LinkedIn. Like I said, they might be scrolling through the feed and boom, if they see your video, that's fantastic. They're going to love it. They're going to, go crazy for it. But what happens a week later, right? Once that feed is, there's new content on that feed. In order for a consumer to find that video on Facebook or even LinkedIn, they're going to have to specifically go to your profile, right? So, and if you're doing other types of social media where you're driving people to your profiles, that's great and that can certainly work. But again, we want a strategy that lets that video work over and over again. And for that reason, I'm not so crazy about posting on Facebook and LinkedIn. Now, the other platform you might be thinking of is Instagram. Instagram is similar to those two because you obviously have a feed, and like we talked about, right? If you post it on day one, yeah, you'll probably have some people watch it on day one, day two, day three. But after a week, the only way they can really get to it is by going to your profile, right? Your actual profile page on Instagram. Now on Instagram, it's more popular right now, so it might be a little easier to drive traffic, which is why I put it in a different category. But you're still running into the same issue, which is, hey, I spent all this time, all this effort creating this video, and yeah, I got a nice little jolt from the first couple of days of people watching the video, but it's not something that's going to be working for me over the long haul necessarily. So that's so because of all these points, I think one of the best distribution channels is actually YouTube, because YouTube is going to be evergreen, right? People can search for this content and over again, right? So you can have buyer 1 search, a month from now, buyer 2 search 6 months from now, buyer 3 search 2 years from now. But if they're going to be searching for the same thing, which likely they are, right? Because all buyers are going to be searching for the neighborhoods they can live in, the tips on buying and tips on investing, right? They're going to be searching for that over and over again, and your videos can automatically come up over and over again, and again, attract that potential client and actually get you business. So that's the reason why I love YouTube. I think YouTube is the best place for you guys to be putting your videos on. So hopefully that helps, guys. I know I went through a lot of different content on here and a lot of different tips, but you really want to hone this down and figure out the videos that you want to shoot, the videos that you shouldn't shoot, and then actually figure out how to distribute them so that it can generate business for you. Because as I mentioned, I've got my own channel that's separate from this one that generates leads for me almost on a weekly basis for me right now. And that's the ultimate goal, right? You want these videos to be working for you because at the end of the day, these videos are your assets. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. If you have any questions, any comments, any thoughts, shoot them below. And like I said, guys, if you're thinking about potentially making a move within the Boston area, looking for a new team, a new brokerage to really catapult your business, hit me up and we can have a talk.